Another draft physics video presentation. Yeah. Frame rate seems a little fucked up. Well, anyway, it's always something. Floors, whatnot, everything. Anyway, continuing. I'll try to anyway. Alright, so comments. Context. What I've done is I'm arguing that physics made a mistake 100 years ago, made a few before that even, and made a lot of mistakes actually. And somebody's got to correct the mistakes, right? And obviously the whole institution is, kind of dependent on these mistakes, just like the religious people, are dependent on their miracles and Jesus having special powers and being the actual Son of God and all that kind of crap. And if the truth came out, blah, 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 it ruins their fun. They've invested in a theory that's not correct. And so that's the simplest part of the argument, is that the theory always seemed silly to me. I mean, there's silly answers to questions. Wave particle duality is a silly answer. Bent space is a silly answer. The whole relativity time is a dimension thing. It's just silly. There's 3 dimensions. There's not 4 dimensions. You can't make a 4th dimension that follows the dimension rules. I mean, the logic is pretty obvious and pretty simple, pointing out why what they're saying is incredible. And they haven't backed it up with incredible evidence. Okay, the evidence is actually really, really horrible when you look at it. And that's been a theme of this whole conversation. For years, what I've been saying is the evidence is insanely weak. I mean, it's not a little bit weak, it's insanely weak for the extraordinary claims they're making. And and so I've attempted to point out and show this is their real evidence. Okay. And I've pointed out where they're lying about the evidence and telling stories, and it's just all a big frickin' religion. And I'm outing it. Now, yeah, it'd be better if somebody with a physics degree did it. Be better if some respected scientist sat there somewhere, a Feynman or somebody, and they were scratching on their paper and they said, ooh, yeah, this whole thing is screwed up. Oh, here's the right answer. And they really were happy that they found the right answer, and they wanted to prove it, and blah, 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 and they go out and they, have the argument and win the argument. That'd be nice if it happened that way, but it didn't, unfortunately. Unfortunately, I was the one who figured it out first, and it's just the way it happened, And from my position, yeah, it's a little bit difficult to have the fair fight. And so I'm offering $1,500 for the fair fight. We've seen what people have done, run away. All right, using all kinds of lame and silly excuses to run away, simply. AB Science, Baldy Cats, the whole crew, of the flat Earth debunkers are cowards. They'll, like I said, it's kind of obvious. They'll pick on insane people, but they won't pick on somebody with a rational critique or a rational criticism. Who brings up just obvious things like, why haven't they done the Eddington experiment from space when there's 400 times better resolution and you could do it with a GoPro camera? I mean, they can take a GoPro to the space station. There's no GoPros can't go there rule. These are real criticisms. You don't have any counter arguments of any kind. There's none. Zero. I don't have anything to show as a counter. Here's the counter argument to what I've said. Nothing, except some kind of crap about where I live and how long my hair is. Yeah. So, it's going to have to be a fight. It would be a fight no matter who brought it up. I'm sure there'd be a fight. It'd be contentious. You don't think Einstein was being a bit insulting when he, posed his thought experiments? You don't think Schrodinger's cat was, just kind of mocking quantum mechanics? Einstein says something like, what, do you think the moon disappears when I'm not looking at it? You think he wasn't being a bit insulting? So, let's not pretend you can have these fights without some insults getting flung around. But the point is your insults are lame and silly. They're not even close to, insulting me based on the fact that I said something really stupid. Or, you can back me into some sort of corner where I've made some insane assertions. You don't have any of that. You don't quote anything I've said. You can't, out of these, I do an hour of video, and you can't extract any of it to say, oh, well, here, I can prove you wrong on that statement. Nothing. No. So, I'm perfectly willing for this all to end with somebody getting pilloried and thrown in jail for 1,000,000 years. I'm not doing anything dishonest here. I honestly think it's a religion. I honestly think it's a pile of shit. And I think I've made a very good argument pointing out how it's a pile of shit. And you haven't made any good counter argument. All you've done is troll. Metamorph and friends. You haven't done anything else. You write songs, you do silly little things, but you don't come even close. You don't have anything. You're not touching the argument at all. You're not explaining how, oh, it's okay that all the physicists are telling a story that isn't true. That, at least 50% of the videos on the subject talk about detector experiments that theoretically can't even take place, let alone actually happen. And you don't care? I mean, that's shame on you, fucker. I mean, So go ahead, play the game. I'm invested, and there should be egg on somebody's face. There should be somebody whose carcass gets picked to pieces by the vultures. In the end, there should be a winner and a loser. And and here you are spending the last day of your life, proving that you're the asshole here. You're not making a good argument. You're not saying anything useful. You're just going to be something else I can point to, even from my grave. It can be pointed to and just said, look at those assholes. Look at how they resisted the truth. Look at that. They didn't give a shit about facts or evidence. They just cared about their silly little fables they lived for. That's all you're demonstrating. So bravo. I already know I'm going to win. Okay, so I'm more than certain, and so you're not even close to as good a theory. You don't even have anything close to as good an argument in terms of a model that explains. I'm going to win in the future, and the future's mine, as Tesla said. Tesla happened to be wrong, but he sort of owns it in the nutters, the kooks, but otherwise no. So whatever. So I'll read this crap, but I mean, just for posterity. I mean, all you've done is given me hard evidence that you're an asshole. So bravo. Genuinely curious. Yes, we know that's just bullshit, right? That's just people playing word games when they say that kind of crap, right? So you're just playing little word games. Who in your audience are you trying to force some concession from exactly? Well, it would be Hothliday, right? So if Hothliday was still alive, I'm pretty damn sure he'd be impressed. So, but unfortunately, can't put that one on my mantle. Now, I don't know about Mindless Marbles and what's the other asshole? Maybe they'd be willing to concede by now. Who knows? But, there's people. Now, there's some people in my audience, I'm sure, are the people that are leftovers from the little bits of controversy here and there, the Baldy Cats thing and whatnot. I'm sure some of those people have some physics degrees or BSs or whatever, something. And they're still curious, and Pierrot's out there still, claims to have gotten some sort of college physics education. When's he? I'm just saying that if he's not willing to concede even now, that maybe this two slit crap is just a pile of crap. That'd be pretty pitiful on his part. That's all I'm saying. I can only reason with you, okay? If you're unreasonable, that's not my bad. That's your bad, and that's what you're proving. So I'm just saying, in inspection, in hindsight, when the world looks back, they're going to say, gee, if that's what human beings do, that's how they have arguments. They just ridicule and ad hominem attack and bring up irrelevancies, and they don't even get close to making an argument. Boy, they're pretty lame. They suck. So you're just proving my point, okay? You people all have no character. You really have no integrity. You don't give a shit about facts and the truth. You're just here to play a game, a really bad game. All right, real physics says certainly aren't watching, so whom? So again, you're saying they're not watching. I have their names in the title of some videos. I'm sure they watch those. Now, if you think they don't, that's your opinion, but I don't think that's the truth, and I think you know it's not the truth. They're damn curious about what's happening to their reputation, and I'm sure they're a little bit stressed. Now, I've made this offer to a physicist, to pay them, and I did it recently with another physicist. And he said, yeah, sure, I'll do it for no money. Even though I offered him money. Oh, no, I'll do it for free. But as soon as he found out what he was in for, I haven't heard back from him. Yeah, isn't that curious? I'm just saying, I'm offering $1,500. Now, that's what, three weeks salary for you? I mean, it's more than that for me. It's a lot of money. You're saying for $1,500, they won't debunk me like every other flat earther, like every other kook or fool or asshole out there. Somehow, I'm different. Somehow, I'm not. I don't deserve the attention. And even if they're paid for it, $1,500. And so you're saying the right answer is, oh yeah, I'm just too irrelevant. So even though they're getting paid to do something that should be really easy, they're unwilling to do it? Oh, please. So, again, that's your plausible argument. You think that's a plausible truth? That they're not doing it because they don't have a huge incentive to do it? Yeah, they do. But it ain't going to work for them. That's right. They're not going to look so good when it's done. All right. I'd imagine your audience consists entirely of personality cultists and gawkers. Yeah, I guess that's what you are. You're one of those types, right? I mean, you've spent your life doing drugs and watching B movies, right? So yeah, you don't know much about reality. Here to watch the train wreck. Well, again, I'm here to show, that this is what the truth was. I'm even a bigger hero, in reality. Because I had to endure these kind of shitty slings and arrows. I mean, little trolly weasels who can't make an argument. And all they can do is sit there and pick on my mother or something. I mean, there's actual trolls out there doing that right now. They're sitting there picking on my family to get to me. I mean, that's how lame you are. That's how weak you are. All right. Who are you trying to convince with this 1,000th iteration of the exact same denials and waving? So where are the denials? What denial? What am I denying? So you can't take one sentence out of my video and prove I was wrong in asserting that that experiment wasn't done, or that's not true, or all of those things. You can't point out one of these where I have denied something that's actually true. So show me this denial. Show me the video on YouTube explaining the two-slit experiment correctly. Show me one video. Why won't you link to the video you say is a good deconstruction of the mechanics? You can't link me to a single video that you'll stand by that you say is good physics, good science, that isn't irrationally crazy, stupid, fucking retarded dumbass all over the place. I mean, really, when Feynman's drawing those two pumps miles from each other, when the slits are at less than a millimeter apart, what the fuck? You mean, I'm just saying, what, Feynman was on drugs that day? What's the excuse? The physics is so bad. And hand waving, yeah, well, that's what everybody has to do in this world, frankly. And if this is hand waving, is this literal hand waving? I mean, what's your standard for hand waving? I'm pointing out that the most important experiment in all of 100 years of physics, and if you look at all the physics documentary and all the physics shows and all the physics money spent on accelerators and LIGO and all this kind of crap, this is billions and billions of dollars, this industry, and it's all based on this fable they've been telling of quantum mechanics and its wooiness. So you don't think anybody should hand wave and might say, that's a religion. It's a story they're telling. It's not. It has nothing to do with the evidence or the facts. It has to do with a religion. Somebody said it. Bohr, the king of it, he made up all this fantasy bullshit. Don't tell God what to do. I mean, that was his response to Einstein. Quit telling God what to do, what he can't do. You know, that's what you want to believe. There's a God and he's plays dice with the universe. Ugh, this is just so stupid. All right. Final Fantasy makes some effort to fix things, but I mean, it's not really a fix because it's just throwing insults back. But anyway, what makes you think Amendum's audience consists of cultists and gawkers, you idiot? Well, frankly, you know, I'm sorry, the human race is 90%, maybe more, fucking asshole. And there's some of them watching my video right now. They're fucking assholes. I'm sorry. You know, they just are. Do you ever know what those words mean? Do you even know? Yet you're accusing somebody of being such. Well, I'm just saying it's a fair accusation. There isn't any really brilliant comments, and you know, frankly, the commenters aren't going, "Hey, yeah, you really pointed that out," and you know, I'll add, you know, some other point, you know, pointing out that, oh yeah, well, Professor Lewin also said, and they obviously don't have much knowledge base. Okay, so frankly, the audience seems pretty out of the conversation entirely in any kind of making any contributions at all. Have you seen any comments on my videos that are at all helpful in terms of any technical knowledge or technical contributions? I mean, vague, they'll give me a link to debunk now and then, but they don't help with the debunking. They don't provide anything, you know, very little help provided. I have to concede that what's-his-face was you know, the guy who's conspiracy nutter, unfortunately. I mean, he did provide some early stuff like the I didn't know that Eddington had a journal, you know, write in his own journal. He says, I wouldn't stake my life on these results. I mean, his journal was basically pointing out how the whole experiment was dismal failure. Funny how that all changed when the New York Times said Einstein right. Anyway, provide a counter argument to Amendum's physics or shut the fuck up. Yes, well, there's no counter argument. So they can't provide a counter argument because these are just facts and they don't want to own up to them. As pointed out, all I've asked for is a concession from even people like Hothladay was that the evidence is weak, and they all can't say those words. That, yeah, it'd be better if they had real evidence. You know, if they're going to make these assertions that they had something called a nice big pile of evidence. And they don't. They have drawings of evidence. They have innuendo, like, well, there was a gun. Somebody saw it. You know, didn't you see it, Jim? I saw the gun. Didn't you see the gun? Yeah, we saw it. I mean, it's not even close to a good trial. All right, anyway. None of your naysaying and slander is needed. Well, it's less than needed. I mean, it's a nice distraction. It makes everybody feel okay. Yes, you got a good dig in. Oh, yeah, you took a shot at my mother. Fine. I'll take a shot at the women you sleep with. How about that? I bet they were all ugly as fuck. Anyway, and you look foolish doing it. Amendum's audience has no cultist or gawkers in it. Yeah, well, it doesn't have much in it, frankly. You know, it has a bunch of broken people, you know, and that's why, you know, broken people are attracted to people who are advocating for, you know, for the broken, and that's what I do. You know, so I should have them as an audience, but let's just concede they're, you know, it's not an audience of winners. Anyway, if so, provide evidence of such, you old clown. So, you know. I mean, I have good cause to because I've had personal dealings with Metamorph in the past about different things. So insults are part of the game now. But if you're going to counter-argue in a comment section, you probably should just stick to the, hey, why don't you make a real argument? If he's done hours of redundant saying of something that's completely wrong, well, why don't you quote what's wrong and show us how it's right? Why don't you prove him wrong rather than just say him wrong? That would be a good comment. Anyway, so then this loony shows up, Bob Buckingham. Um, the one generally curious in this joint is you. So I don't even know who he's talking to there. Go take a shower and wake up. I don't know what that means. You honestly think the world's seen through your horse blinkers. What do you know of physics other than the enormous fatigue you have read in the Reader's Digest? With enormous fatigue. I bet $100 against a bowl of dog puke that you still believe in rotation and gravitation of a ball Earth. So, I mean, goodbye. Yeah. Yeah. Too stupid. I mean, you have just to be an insane liar, okay, to deny the round Earth. I mean, it's insane, right? I mean, everybody, all the satellite photographs, all the pictures, all the millions and millions of people. My father, you're basically accusing my father of being a liar. You know, he worked on NASA engines. Fuck you. You're a fucking idiot and a liar. All right. And so Metamorph says, another graduate from Gary U, I presume. Yeah, well, why don't you demonstrate that we have anything in common and then make that accusation? But you won't do that. I bet he has more in common with you. He's like you. His icon is, I do drugs. That's his icon. Yeah, he's proud of it. So whatever. So we'll just get rid of that also. I'll leave the rest because, yes, the whole point is that you're the one who's going to be buried by history, okay? You're going to be on the little stinky little ash heap of dumbass. Oh, here was another dumbass. Look how he spent the last little hours of his life trolling on the internet. Pathetic. Also, calling physicists silly cowards in your title certainly isn't conducive to reasonable conversation. Well, I've already tried the reasonable conversation tactic, and what did I get? Called the Holocaust denier, called all kinds of things, okay? I got called all kinds of names. So yeah, fuck that. You know, I've done all that, and the cowards ran away. So now I'm just pointing out how they're cowards, and I'm going to say it overtly. They're fucking cowards, okay? I'll bet them real money. I'll put anything I have to put at risk, okay, to have my opportunity to prove they don't deserve the gold medal, okay? They can't run worth shit. Their theory sucks. The evidence sucks, and I can prove it. Given the opportunity, they're going to lose. Okay, with those you're presumably trying to convince. Yeah, like I said, convincing really doesn't matter. I want an opportunity to show that they're just fucking liars. Because that's what they are. The Puros, the rest of them, you're just fucking liars. Alright, again, all I asked for 10 years ago was for you to concede that the evidence provides lots of opportunity for counter theories. And the fact that you've closed all those doors and claimed you have nail in the coffin evidence and you have the most proven theory in the history of mankind and all this fucking hypey shit just proves how obnoxious you are. You don't give a fuck about the truth, and that's the truth here. The truth I want to prove is that these people don't care about the truth. Science doesn't mean anything to them. Facts, reality, no. They want a fable to live by. They want some happily ever after horse shit. Okay. Easier to replace your basic ignorance with name calling. So again, you haven't proven any of this ignorance. You haven't demonstrated it. All you have to do is quote it somewhere here in front of everybody. Just quote the profound ignorance, and yet you haven't done it. And what I've done is played the fucking videos. I've shown Feynman. I'll do it again, frankly. I was just watching it last night, and I'm just saying, how did he get away with this? How could all these physics students sitting in an audience watching this horse shit not recognize, well, doesn't he know that it's a 1 millimeter slit and it's two patterns are going to be right on top of each other? He doesn't know that? Fuck. That's fucked up, man. None of them. I guess that's what your entire history suggests. Yeah, I'm not making any apologies. I'm here to have the fight. You're the cowards. Your team is the one that can't show up with an argument. Again, post me the video you stand by. Post me a video to some physics on the subject of quantum mechanics that you stand by. That you'd say, damn, that's good science. Damn, they got all the facts right in a row there, don't they? Show me that video. And I'll show how Stern-Gerlach wasn't a fucking electron experiment. I'll show how all I have to do is do that experiment a little bit differently and you get a completely different pattern that you haven't explained at all. Alright. That's what your history suggests anyway. Well, again, you're the ones running away from the argument. You're the ones I can't even pay to make an argument. So let's just, those are the real facts. Again, you're the one that's going to be buried on the ash heap. That's my prediction. I bet everything I own on it. Okay, big man with big words. You're the one playing the word game, okay? I'm playing the fact game. I'm playing the, here's the quotes, here's their video, here's what they said, here's how it's wrong, here's how it's overtly wrong, right? You're the ones ignoring. You don't think it's important that Eddington actually wrote in his journal, I wouldn't stake my life on the results of this experiment because everything went wrong. You don't think that's important in a scientific experiment. The person actually doing the experiment says, gee, everything went wrong and I wouldn't stake anything on these fucking results. You don't think that's important. That's a fact. And you don't think it's important that there's 400 times, 400 times better resolution from space. And you don't need an eclipse. And they've never done the experiment. Simple experiment. I mean, just dumb simple. It's so simple. It's like dumb simple. It's so fucking simple to do. 10 minutes. And you don't think that suggests shenanigans? Okay. Then you're really fucking stupid, right? What else can you be called? But wow, you're really dumb. You'll fall for anything, won't you? You don't care about evidence. You just don't. You just care about believing. You're a believer. You're not a fact finder. Okay. Words from the shower curtain studio. What's it? Who cares what studio I have? Oh, yeah. Oh, that's important. And you're saying that from what? Your rented condo? I mean, I don't even know where you living now. What's your studio, fuckhead? All right, straight out of the Chud. So I guess that's a reference to some C movie. I mean, it's a movie I couldn't even be compelled to watch, apparently. And I kind of like offbeat movies. So really, so fucking interesting. So so this is the best they can do. Oh, this is the best argument we can bring. Pathetic. So go ahead. I'll stand by my arguments. You stand by yours. All right, and we'll see who is going to be the asshole in the end, fuckhead. It's all over your face right now, frankly. So, all right. So, see, there's the Feynman video. So we won't do that today. But there was, there's this. So this is another one where they've decided it has something to do with consciousness. And they talk about the detectors and all that horse shit. Maybe I'll play that. But this one was more interesting because this one shows how you just changed one little fact in the, you changed one of the physical features of the experiment and you can force the pattern to do all kinds of different things. And none of them are consistent with waves, frankly. And they're all very consistent with the theory I've pointed out.
Okay, so I'm going to try and demonstrate to you a practical experiment. Each of those things.
Okay, so we'll just move along a little bit here. So this is nice because it's all marked, but frankly the marks don't even seem to be that accurate. So this end one is supposed to be an entire millimeter. Now what they don't tell you is it a millimeter from end to end or is it a millimeter for the impediment? And they don't say that, so that leaves it a little bit open. Now, it would sort of be impossible for it to be side to side because this 0.251 indicates you can't fit two 0.15 openings in a 2.5, right? I mean, that's 3 and this is 2.5, so you can't do that. So let's just say it's legitimate. But the point is he says, oh, I like this end one better. You get a better pattern. Well, obviously, these are the ones that create the two patterns. Okay, oh, sorry, I should use my arrow. Yeah, there's the arrow. Okay, so these, like this one's a millimeter. Okay, for the impediment, the middle barrier, and this one's the half, 3/4 of a millimeter, which it really doesn't look like, frankly. I mean, it's a 35 millimeter slide. I don't know. Anyway, this one's a half millimeter, and then this one's a 1/4 of a millimeter. And you can't even see it, obviously. And the interesting thing, though, is look how much brighter it looks. So the point would be is that, I think it's bigger than 0.25, but you can't even see the middle barrier at all. But regardless, it just doesn't matter. The point is this would be like the wire experiment, like just putting a plain piece of wire that's very, very thin. So if you have a very thin difference in the distance between the slits, you get a different pattern. So let's move on to the pattern. Frankly, he doesn't say anything. He's just sitting here talking about putting the laser in front of it and see, oh, look, when there's no slit, there's a dot on the wall. I mean, duh. So that's not too interesting. So here's where it gets.
Both of those slits, it's spreading out, it's diffracting. But when it gets over here, you get this.
So here you can clearly see, in contrast to that, where you have this giant thing in the middle, right? So back to this. See this giant thing in the middle? All right, it's very big, very big. And so then we'll go back to the other pattern, and you'll see, hey, it ain't so big. So the middle, which is this one here, unfortunately, because he's got the, he should have done it straight up, so you could get the pattern right. So you can see that the middle is not nearly 2 of the node sizes. It's much, much smaller. And that's because the center impediment is so small that there's not enough difference between the two surfaces. So it's really just demonstrating that there's only 2 components that are sort of driving the pattern. And all you need is that third source, one or the other, to create the pattern. So you don't have the blending of these two. These two aren't close enough to each other to get blended. Oh, sorry. Can't put the arrow over there. These two are too far apart for this to fill in the difference between them. So, so that's curious. I'm just pointing it out that, as I pointed out, this varies. The width of that center thing varies depending on how you do the experiment. There's no standard for it. The standard is just built into the mathematics of the distance between the point sources. And so you can see here vaguely, and he just sort of ignores it, that you do have the bigger break here. The dark spot gets darker. It's bigger. And, but unfortunately, like I said, he has the whole thing tilted so you can't see. He has the camera angle, he has the angle of the experiment, I guess, bad, so you can't see the pattern symmetrically. And obviously it's a symmetrical pattern. But we'll play some of this just because it'll illustrate the point.
Very interesting pattern of bright and dark.
Oh, there, it's straighter.
So it goes bright, then dark, then bright, then dark, then bright, then dark, and so on.
Right, so he just did a Professor Lewin, right? He said it gets bright, and it gets dark, and it gets bright, and it gets, and so on. And there's not a so on. There's a big, giant, glaring absence of dark. It gets bright and dark, and then it's dark again, and then it gets bright and dark, right? So they just ignore what the experiment actually produces because they have no explanation for it, and their little wave theory doesn't work. And that's the simple truth. Let's see if he does any analysis. Yes, so he does. So he draws the standard picture, but obviously this isn't the single slit pattern. So he's obviously not seeing the envelope pattern because he's destroyed it by having a tiny distance in, a wire in the middle. And so with that, you don't get the broad center maxima, because this doesn't combine these two together. These two are starting at different locations. Yeah, I have to go through that. But anyway, you can see it quite clearly. Usually this is drawn with the center being twice as wide. So, I'm supposed to use the arrow. The center, this center one is supposed to be twice as big as these others. And clearly in this drawing, it's not. So again, something else they totally ignore. So how can they keep saying the experiment does something when it doesn't do that? And they keep saying the single slit does diffraction when the single slit does exactly this. It makes this pattern. So again, it's just, it doesn't, how bad does it have to get? I mean, how unresponsive to the actual evidence do they have to be, for you to understand why there's reason to doubt their theories, doubt their speculation, when they can't even describe the evidence of a single slit experiment correctly? How can you trust them to interpret any other experiments? This is the mess they make out of something this simple. Just imagine the mess they're making out of the more complex experiments. Alright, so let's see what we'll play here. Already did that. Oh, this was terrible. I mean, it has that, what you could call it, actor guy doing the narration, which makes it all sound so much better and so authoritative. And this is just, so this is the Learning Channel or whatever, Discovery Channel. You have to pay money to watch this documentary, apparently. At least you do on YouTube. And so this is a little clip out of it. And so this is what they're doing with this. Physics is provided, science is providing these loony people to do all kinds of things with what they're saying, to pervert it even more.
Time and again, Zeilinger has proven that no matter how extreme...
So, time and again, Zeilinger has proven. So, just more of this proof rhetoric when that ain't what they've done.
Again, Zeilinger has proven that no matter how extreme its predictions, quantum theory works, even though it shouldn't. And
so, again, just all this talk about how it works, and I'm pointing out how, no, it doesn't. No, your theory didn't predict the right thing. If you draw those waves the way you drew them, the math won't tell you it works. The math will tell you failed to accurately model the experiment.
Perhaps the ultimate proof of just how unsettling quantum mechanics can be is something called the double-slit experiment. It will make you question whether reality exists at all.
So that's what they're after. So they're after some way to escape the truth of our existence, our bug heritage, what's really happening, how it's all a big redundant play, that we're just redundantly putting on our costumes and our makeup and going out and doing the same fucking Shakespearean drama over and over and over again. No, they don't want to tell that story. They want a magic story. We randomly did something different. Randomly.
This simple configuration shoots particles of light called photons, one at a time.
So this horseshit, right? So this is like detecting photons. They talk about this one at a time crap. So if I was to tell you that, okay, one at a time could be you take a little tiny light bulb, a little flashlight light bulb, and you just put a tiniest bit, the smallest amount of voltage you can put in it to make it just barely glow. Do you think it's one photon at a time going places? Or do you think, like in most cases, all you're doing is reducing the number of sparks? Like if I had voltage going across a gap, you can sort of understand that I could keep the voltage the same height, but if I don't have enough amperage, I'll just get a little tiny weak, little spark now and then, spark. Now what's happening when the spark happens? Is that one photon? Or is it, oh no, that's a whole bunch of photons at once. Okay, now it's not a whole bunch like a zillions and zillions, it's just like maybe a million. But it doesn't really work as making one photon. What it's really doing is saying, no, it goes bzz, bzz, it turns on, turns off, turns on, turns off. A little bit of stuff happens. It sparks its way through the filament. And so it heats up a little piece, and then heats up a little piece, and it heats up a little piece, because there isn't enough amperage, wattage to, heat it all up So it's little bits at a time, little jolts of electricity get through. And if that's true, then it can't be one photon at a time. It's just a little bit of light and then no light, and a little bit of light and then no light. Perfectly reasonable explanation. But they're saying, oh no, they have one photon time. Proved it. There's no proof here.
Two tiny slits in a screen.
With a laser which produces light, this light is attenuated such that only one photon at a time emerges.
Says him. So again, and he didn't tell us what time scale this is over. So the protection against it you can have is that you can use a full-tone multiplier. Obviously, unlike Veritasium, you don't have it turned up to a highest sensitivity level, so it's picking up 7 error photons at a time. No, you turn it way down. Okay, so it only picks up real photons. And then you can sort of do this click thing, and you first do it with nothing in the experiment, and you see how many photons you got, like 70 got here. And then you put the experiment in and you see if you still get your 70 photons, or you still see what kind of numbers you can get. But yeah, there's ways to do the experiment right and wrong. And as I've already demonstrated, Veritasium does it wrong. And there's no reason to believe this guy hasn't made the same mistake.
These photons pass through a two-slit assembly, and then we have a camera which registers the pattern behind the two-slit assembly.
So it's not really, you wouldn't use a camera, I don't think, but you could be a CCD. But it's probably not the best thing to use.
What we see is that the photons arrive one by one on the screen, some here, some there, and it looks pretty random.
So again, this, statisticals thing, like you can somehow see the pattern before the pattern's there. No, you can't see it until the pattern's actually been developed.
Since the photons travel one by one, some through this slit, some through that slit, you would expect them to leave a pattern of 2 stripes on the wall. And you would be...
Right, so again, this idea that that's what a photon is, that a photon isn't a composite object, that it isn't time dependent, that's why it has, that's, they have words for this: frequency, wavelength, period. These are all words describing something that takes time to happen. Okay, so, and what do? They just draw it as a blob. So they draw their waves with lots of waves, where you can clearly see the period and the thing that, it's a bunch of little things, the waves, bunch of waves. And what they do when they particleize it, they turn into a clump.
Wrong. They mysteriously create...
So they say wrong. Okay, they mysteriously create the wrong pattern. So if this is his evidence, if this is his actual output, it's clearly not the double slit pattern. The middle bar isn't bigger. There's no subsequent pattern being created. So why? How come? Why didn't your experiment work the way it's supposed to work? Any explanations? No, we won't get any of those. Alright, should be back. I had to take a bit of a pause. Blah, 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 blah. Life and such.
A band of stripes. This is what you would expect to see if a constant beam of light shined through the 2 slits. It would...
Yeah, no, you wouldn't expect it, frankly. Okay, you'd only expect it if you had some understanding of how waves function and all this kind of crap, blah, 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 blah. But it wouldn't be the first guess for most people, even if you said it's a wave. If you say, oh, look, I'm going to put waves through 2 slits, they don't automatically know, oh, they're going to interfere with each other. So again, they're showing, the same wrong pattern. They can't even get the fact that the brights are always bigger than the darks. They can't even get that much of it right.
Spread across the wall like a wave. So how can single bullet-like particles of light create a wave pattern?
Well, first you have to understand they're bullets at a frequency. That's what the frequency is. It's actually the frequency between bullets. Yes. Durr. So first you have to understand the photon is a pattern of bullets. And that when the pattern goes through the slits, what's happening is the pattern can get broken because the photons are polarized. They have a size. And then some of them don't fit through the slits, frankly. And little pieces get knocked off. But all those little broken pieces can end up going to the surface and end up being recombined. But yes, they bend on the surfaces. The surfaces have structure, and that structure seems to bend photons. That's the simple explanation. They hit things, and they reflect in different directions.
This could only happen if the particles go through.
So it's the only way to understand. We can't possibly understand any other way. And again, this is all proven by the polarization filters. Because when you use the polarization filters, right, this blocks 50, this blocks 50%. And then somehow you put a third filter in between those two and you get 30% back. Now, how does that happen? What possible explanation could there be except, oh, this didn't break 50% of the photons. I mean, this didn't destroy the photons. It only disordered them. And then this only disorders photons. And so you can put another filter in between those two and you can get some of your photons back in the right sequence. Because all you're doing is changing their phase. You're changing the phase of the pattern. And therefore the pattern can't be recognized. But you can put the phase, you can put the pattern back in phase, and then the photon will be recognized again. And that's the simple explanation.
Both slits at the same time. In other words, the particle is in two places at once. But
why? Why is it in two places at once? Why? How? How is it in two places at once?
Strangest of all is what happens when you put detectors next to the slits.
Okay, so this is apparently some real scientist who played with this, right? Anton Ziegler. So he's apparently supposed to be a real physicist, a real scientist of some credibility, and he lent his name to this and allowed them to do this. To say this about detecting a photon. A complete theoretical impossibility. No one can give me a theory of how you could possibly passively detect a photon. It's impossible to passively detect a photon. It can't be done with anything ever, anywhere, anytime, anywhere, anything. Nothing. There's no theory. Photons only interact with electrons, and they interact in a complete way. They're completely absorbed and completely, readmitted. There's no passive transmission. There's no passive interaction.
When the photons are being watched, the wave pattern disappears.
So isn't that interesting? No, that's complete crap. That's a silly interpretation of what happens. Obviously, if I tried to detect a photon, right? I don't even know how I would try. Theoretically, I don't even know how I try. What do I do to try to detect a photon with some kind of photon detector? I'm going to try to detect a photon going this way. How the fuck do I do that? Is there some way I can do that? I can't imagine what the way would be, so I can't even describe to you how ludicrous this is, because I can't even give you any even hope of an idea of how you detect a photon going in front of you this way. I mean, I put my hand here and deflect it into my eye. I can blow smoke, and then I could see the photons because they'll hit particles and go right into my eye, and they won't be going where they're going anymore. So, I mean, kind of obviously, if the photon has to hit a particle of dust and then reflect into my eye, and I say, oh, I saw that photon, obviously that photon can't make a pattern someplace because it already made one in my eye. I mean, this is so fucking bad. This is such crap physics. And, where's the panic? Where's the hand waving? Okay, no one's waving their hands. No one's saying, wait, you're turning physics into a religion. So Metamorph says this is how physics should be taught. This is good stuff. This is what he's endorsing. This is what he's complaining about. Because there's one person on the internet pointing out how it's bad physics. He's got to go make a comment and stop that guy. Because, gee, we can't have anybody saying anything bad about this great physics. Fuck.
Take away the detectors and the wave pattern.
Isn't that cute? So, magical detectors that don't exist, that never did any of this crap, They can't detect electrons either. There's no way to passively detect an electron. There's no theory. There's no way to do it. It's not possible. And yet they claim they did it. So first off, obviously there's absolutely no evidence that anybody ever tried, because no one's stupid enough to even try. I mean, you really have to be stupid to even try.
Comes back. This suggests that we can change the way reality behaves just by looking at it.
So it doesn't do any of this. The whole thing is a big fat lie. It's all religious crap, all that, and the evidence is this pixelated. It sucks.
Does this mean that reality itself is not real?
The modern answer is that the path taken by the photon is not an element of reality.
Blah, 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 blah. Says crazy loop-de-doo in the dark. I mean, all this drama, right? I mean, really, yeah, we'll do the experiment in the dark, and we'll have blue lights, even though you're not using a blue laser, and we'll do a blah, 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 woo, 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 woo. And then you could show the electron pattern instead of the photon pattern. Woo, 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 but that'll be stupid, actually. You're doing a photon experiment. Why are we talking about electrons? Woo, 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 woo.
We are not allowed to talk about the photon passing through this or this slit.
So let's just understand, this whole measurement thing is just so retarded. I mean, right now you're being measured, right? I mean, there's stuff hitting you all the time. And whether I look at it or not, right? You're reflecting light right now. Whether I look at the light you're reflecting or not, what does that have to do with anything, right? I took a picture of you, right? Your picture got sent into space. Whether there's a camera there to record it, who cares, right? That can't mean anything. So you're being recorded all the time by reality. Reality all the time is analyzing exactly where you are. Okay, so you're being watched all the time. You're being detected all the time, constantly. And so you really think an electron can go across meters of space and it's already not being detected? Is there any hope that it's going somewhere and it's never, no photons ever got near me? I mean, come on. You believe that? And you're really stupid.
Neither are we allowed to say that the photons pass through both slits. All this kind.
Jesus was Jesus, and we all love Jesus, and you have to believe in the Jesus because we have to believe that we have magical power to be something other than stupid fucking robots that just keep talking crap and keep making up silly fucking stories of wonderful creation and random universes and woo 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 woo. We have to have woo in our lives, or then we couldn't stand the smell of our own farts if we don't have the special wooey belief systems. We need to believe in all of this wooey crap so I can make more money doing videos in the dark and looking all mysterious and magical. I mean, that's a really important part of the whole physical universe, is you must pay me money to talk like a fucking asshole and tell you about the magical, mysterious, scientific reality that's very complicated. I have a symbol for it. It's this forky thing with a little thing on it, and the forky thing says old because it's the magical forky thing that tells us everything about everything, and it's the most proven forky thing in the universe. All the aliens know about the forky thing. Fuck!
Of language is not applicable.
Yeah, we can't have a real conversation because there's nothing real. We live in the matrix of wooey magical cupcakes.
So, do we just keep reaping the benefits from quantum mechanics?
The benefits. Oh, hilarious. Yeah, a bunch of people are making money selling crap. Quantum propaganda videos.
And accept that deep down, nature plays by a set of rules that will forever remain a mystery?
Right. To you. Okay, so yes, I guess you're going to be forever unaware of evolution. Okay, yeah, it's this competing theory, frankly, with a whole big pile of evidence supporting it. And I can show you there's a big pile of evidence supporting the robot theory, the mechanical universe theory, the fact that there isn't no woos. The dice, when you roll the dice at the roulette table, at the dice table, there's no magical woo forces that are going to make your box cars come up. You're not going to be able to wish it so. You're not going to be able to blink your eyes a special way at the dice. I'm only seeing you a little bit, and therefore you're only going to be superimposed a little bit because I'm blinking my eyes. Little lightning bolts aren't going to come out of your fingers and change what the dice say. Oh, this is so fucking pathetically stupid.
The interesting message here is that we have quantum physics now around for nearly 100 years.
Yeah, a stupid, dumb fucking religion. And you're just saying, damn, and these are supposed to be smart people. And this is what they fall for. They fall for this crap. This unevidenced bullshit story.
And we are still working at the foundations. And that tells me that...
No, you're not. So again, more horse shit. You're so lost way up the ass of wooey, superimposed, entangled. Again, now people like Susskind are talking, not particles aren't entangled. No, space itself is entangled. Space is entangled with space. That's how bad it's getting.
When we found it, it will be an absolute revelation. Something different from what we have been thinking.
Yeah, no, you'll just have to go all the way back and say, oh, okay, round wheels. Yeah, round wheels are really good. Yeah, we should have stuck with that round wheel thing. It really worked. So what is all this for?
If the quantum theorists are correct, we will never understand the fundamental level of the universe.
So again, they can't even understand their own understanding. We have an understanding that's beyond understanding. It's the ununderstandable understanding.
Our hopes of finding an ultimate theory will fail, and the human race will...
The ultimate theory, which means our hopes that any of this stuff will ever be made coherent. That is, that we'll even ever be able to combine our own wacky stories. We've made up so many silly stories, the Whobies and the wannabes and the wackabees and the flatties and the whatever. So we've made up so many different characters, so many gremlins and hobgoblins, and they're all eating each other and all kinds of stuff. The whole thing doesn't work. We can't make any sense of this village of bullshit. It's gingerbread in milk, and it's all dissolving. Oh, the milk dissolves the gingerbread. What are we going to do? Oh, forget about it. It's the way the universe works.
Hit a roadblock it can't break through. But what if they're wrong?
Yeah, there you go. What if I can't believe he's actually said those words. What if they're wrong? He's going to say something silly here, right? You just know there's like a punchline. It's going to be hilarious. How could they be wrong? They're scientists.
What if the truth about what happens deep inside you, me, and everything else in the universe is there? If we're willing to look for it.
There you go. Wow. And are you willing? No. And there's no evidence of willingness. There's no evidence that you're willing to take a GoPro camera and put it on a space station and take a picture of a couple of stars. No willingness to even do that. Oh, so we don't get the rest of it. So that is, it is interesting that he, led to that what if they're wrong thing. I wonder what the punchline was. Clearly the democracy, what do you call them things? Documentary. I'm sure they couldn't leave the audience with any doubt about the mysterious woo-averse. So I'm sure they had to come up with some kind of counter argument. But anyway, well, that was just so bad, right? That was so bad. Ooh. The other one's even worse. So maybe I should play a little bit of it just to get it out of my collection of crap here. Yeah, so let's just play a little bit of this. This is really, this is the Dr. Quantum style crapola.
Theory that we are living in a matrix-like simulation. You may know about or remember one of the most famous experiments in the history of physics, the experiment of Thomas Young.
So again, this is so bad just because the Young diagram doesn't do the experiment any good at all. I mean, it's so bad, it's so wrong, it's mechanically inaccurate, it doesn't work. The analysis is all wrong because Young did it so badly. I mean, he didn't use monochromatic light. He, didn't in any way. He didn't have laser beams. He didn't have lots of stuff. So he did a really lousy version of the experiment and drew stupid, ignorant conclusions. And yet they still iconize this.
The double slit experiment. It was a real coup in physics and led many scientists into the study of quantum mechanics. If you throw solid balls at a shield with a slit...
So again, the same argument all over again. If you did any of these... if you actually did this experiment, what would happen? A ton of them would barely hit the edge of the surface of the slit and they'd go in all kinds of other directions. You get lots of diffraction. So again, they can't even honestly do their simulation of what would happen if. Well, yeah, some of them go right straight through and some of them would not go right straight through.
Cut into it. A single diffuse strip designating the strike points will appear on the screen behind the shield. If there are two slits in the shield, then there will be two strips.
Yes, 1 millimeter apart. Oh, wait a minute. The strips themselves are going to be thicker than 1 millimeter, so I won't even see them. Because it'll be so... The strip is going to be wider than 1 millimeter, and the strips are going to be less than 1 millimeter apart. So I'll only see one strip, right? Yeah, right. Duh.
But how will waves behave if aimed at the shield? They will pass through the slot and spread out.
Yeah, yeah, well, so what? They won't create an interference pattern, will they? No, they won't, but they do in light. Oh, okay, so again, comparison completely fails. And they show it like it... Look, doesn't this prove there's an interference pattern? Look, there's an interference pattern, right? Oh, no, that's not an interference pattern. No, that's not going to make on and off.
The greatest impact of the wave will be in the line of the slit, as in the case with the balls. But if you add a second slit, everything changes. A number
So again, it doesn't work. The math won't work.
of alternating interference strips will appear on the projector.
So creating waves that come out of these centers. This isn't the distance they use, the center of the slit. That's not in the math. No. So again, just a complete lie, a fraud, a fake. Phony, wrong, doesn't work.
Screen. And when we shine light on the two strips, this is exactly what happens.
It's exactly not what happened. So again, it's just...
And this is how Mr. Young proved the wave theory of light.
Okay, he didn't prove anything. The experiment sucked. He was clearly biased going in. He's an audiophile guy. He's famous for audio experiments. I mean, yeah, he's trying to force light to be a wave. He didn't prove anything except, oh yeah, you can present evidence badly and convict people wrongly. Yeah, you can be a really bad detective. You can be a shitty scientist.
If light were corpuscular, like a particle, instead of wave-like, it would behave like the balls, and the screen would show two strips of light.
So again, it wouldn't do that even if you did that, but clearly a photon is a composite object, so you're really just talking about a frequency of balls hitting the surface. And clearly you could break up their phase with the slits, and then you could reconstruct phase on the surface. Perfectly consistent with the results of the experiment.
Corresponding to the two slits. That didn't happen. Later, it turned out that electrons and protons behave exactly the same.
So again, they said exactly the same again. Exactly the same. And it's not exactly the same. They never did the experiment. They can't do the experiment with slits. The proton through the two slit experiment? I mean, on its face, it's retarded. The surfaces are charged. They have electrons on them. Can nobody understand how that's how reality works? There's atoms are clearly biased in the sense that the positive charge is on the inside and the negative charge is on the outside? Nobody understands that as being a physical fact? Oh, shit.
Way, showing that they also seem to exist as waves and not as points. There was one assumption that perhaps light and the others were particles and that somehow the particles bumped into each other and flew apart. So, to test this, physicists decided to shoot electrons at the target one by one.
So again, never happened. So again, I mean, what can you say? So this is what the critics of me are saying. Why am I pointing out that this experiment never happened? You shouldn't do that. That's the wrong thing to do. Because, we need to convince everybody by saying we did lots of experiments and proved it in lots of different ways when they didn't do any of that. You can't make a two-slit experiment for an electron. It's impossible. Its frequency is so high that you have to make the slits so small that they're smaller than atoms. You think you can make a slit that's smaller than an atom? I don't think you can.
Single file. And what do you think happened? The strangest thing imaginable. The interference pattern still appeared on the screen.
So again, with electrons, they're bouncing electrons off a crystal, okay, and they're reflecting them. This is not a two-slit experiment at all. There's no slits. There's layers of crystal. I mean, there's no fair, you can't fairly say these are the same experiment. They're just nowhere close to the same experiment.
It seemed that the single electron somehow divided into two waves, passed through both slits.
Okay, so even, let's say you were just saying that, okay, we're going to call it the same experiment. It doesn't look anything like that, so there's no reason to think the electron had to split into two electrons because you're shooting it into a material, and it doesn't need to take two paths. It doesn't need to do any of that stuff because there's no two slits. You're just trying to explain why it deflected this much instead of this much. Oh, I mean, this is such evil, nonsense.
Then interfered with themselves. Impossible. So physicists tried to find out through which gap the electron actually passes. They installed measuring instruments to check.
So this is what they call a measuring instrument, the eyeball. So this is the Dr. Quantum, horse shit. So again, how do you make this electron detector again? How do you do this? No, it's not possible. That's right. It's impossible to do it. Impossible. You can't do it with free electrons, because you can't detect enough motion in a free electron. It takes a huge amount. So you have to use it with fixed electrons. And we already have a ton of evidence that it takes more than one atom has to react to energy to produce a photon. A photon isn't produced by a single atom. The polarization of a photon is 1,000 atoms thick, high. How could one atom, move 1,000 atoms worth of distance to create the photon? How is that possible? There's no theory to make that make sense. It's nonsense. It can't possibly work. So clearly, an electron, if it actually could absorb a whole photon, it would be annihilated by it. It would be pushed so fast.
Check this.
Clearly, one photon has to move more than one electron for you to even see the photon. You get how you have to move more than one with just one photon.
Another seeming impossibility occurred. The electrons stopped behaving like waves and began acting like particles, and left a trace on the screen of two distinct strips with no interference.
So clearly, there's no explanation of the detector, no explanation of how they did it. Of course, you're not going to get the same pattern, but the fact is they never did this experiment and never made two strips, never made those two lines. They're just assuming that's what would happen. When I can logically explain to you, you can sort of get it, right? If I did disturb the electrons by hitting them with something, okay, to detect, get a reflection back. So I was hitting them with enough energy to get a reflection back from the electrons. That what I would do is send them into the experiment even more jostled, even more erratic. So now they would create lots more pattern, not less pattern. So you can get that, right? Yeah. But the fact is, none of this was ever done. This is just part of the fables that all the physicists support. Just keep telling all these Jesus stories. Jesus walked on water. Jesus rose the dead. You know, Jesus did all kinds of really super stuff, and he did it right in front of a whole bunch of witnesses, his disciples. But somehow none of them believed any, the apostles or whatever the fuck they were called. And none of them believed it because, you know, when push came to shove, they all denied Jesus, right? Even though they know God would punch him in the face for denying him, you know, that they were going to go to hell for that. They were so unconvinced by the Jesus story, even though they witnessed it, right? So, and this is, well, how is this different than a religion? How is this different than the same exact tactics? Let's just keep telling these wacky, silly stories to pretend something's real. I mean, it's that frickin' bad.
I had to admit something completely mind-blowing. That the fact of our observation or measurement destroyed the wave function of the photons, causing them to become...
So, I mean, the Sean Carrolls, the Degrassi Tysons, all these people that don't out this crap, they're basically saying, oh yeah, it's okay, go ahead. Take our physics and do this to it. Make it even sillier. Double down on the religious crap.
Like points, corpuscular. The electron, under the influence of observation, behaved like a particle flying through one slit and not through two. Interpretations. Well, it certainly looks like the work of a game engine, doesn't it? This might make you think...
So that's the new god, the gamer god. You know, it really is. This is what they're doing with their little sci-fi nerdy brains, is inventing the new god, the Matrix god.
That our world is running like a game on a computer. The computer's power is not enough to calculate the motion of each and every particle, so it uses a simplified model and applies precise calculations only if...
So let's understand, none of these calculations are precise, so none of this mechanics even works mathematically. And here they are talking about their precise calculations.
An observer needs to look at the particle so as not to break the illusion of the reality.
Okay, so that was another just huge stinky pile of shit. 180,000 views for that pile of shit. And nobody should wave a hand anywhere. Nobody should do anything. Nobody should say anything. Don't show it. Don't talk about it. Don't even bring it up. You're a bad person. Amazing. Just fucking amazing. You know, you people just keep, you know, I keep trying to say, oh no, humans aren't all bad. They're not scum from the tip of their little whatever bald heads to the stinky feet. They're not absolute scum. Yeah, they are. All right. So, till the next time, when I again attempt to throw some Clorox in the scum water. That is your reality. Blah, 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 blah.